Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 86th episode of the GeekVerse podcast. I am the emotionally distraught, very confused, very happy Travis Snail.
I am the flash forwarding.
I'm gonna flash forward to what we're talking about today. As you see by the title, we're doing a review for The Arrival. I'd say anticipated movie for some movie. Apparently for the people in Kelowna where we live, because it was packed.
Yeah.
There's more people there than when we saw Doctor Strange.
Oh, easily.
And to be honest, like in our group, when I said, "Oh, I'm gonna go see that," and you're like, "Oh, like can I come?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." None of the other people in GeekVerse had heard about it. None of my other friends have really heard about this as well. So I was surprised so many people were there. Like it is a long weekend. It's Friday, but it was still like Doctor Strange is still out. There was that movie we saw on the side, The King of Shyamalan. There's a movie out there that we're gonna maybe discuss in a couple weeks. We saw a poster. I've never even heard a picture or anything of that. But we're talking about Arrival. We'll do the same as always. We're gonna break down stuff. This movie we just talked about before it came on. We can't discuss it without spoilers, but we'll give an overall title with no spoilers overall and no score because we said at the end. But overall, what did you think of the film as a whole?
Of course, it was very solid. Definitely a journey.
A journey. That's a good word. Yeah.
It's like. It had me hooked like the whole way through, from like the very beginning till pretty much the very end. It's like there's always something going on. Like you never really feel like you figured it out.
No,
which is
yeah. I won't talk because I almost was about to refer to something.
I think I know what you're referring to, and like you. Yes and no, because like I feel like there's always something to think about throughout the whole film.
I think the first 20 minutes feels like it's paint by numbers. It's just like, and this isn't spoilers, this movie has aliens. They show you in the trailers, but you're just like, okay, an alien arrival movie, this is how it felt like. I just felt like the movie, because I actually had not seen a full trailer. I had seen people tell me that, like, movie critics and whatnot, saying like, oh, this is phenomenal, people love it, people that I trust, so I didn't even see, I've seen like a few clips, but I didn't really know, I just knew it was about an alien invasion movie. I just thought, okay, it's going to be like a really realistic alien movie, the way they're doing it. I'm like, okay, it's not going to be guns, it's not going to be going to war, it's just going to be a realistic alien movie. Like Independence Day, like, without the action. But then it takes, like, a turn in a way, and that, like, we'll get into that in a second.
What was it?
District 9?
District 9. That's
very similar.
I got a very similar vibe like that from the start, and I'm, like, the way they decided to take it was like, wow, like that really got me.
I got that vibe, and I also got Inception, not from like the way we talk about Doctor Strange with the action. With Inception was, for me, it was that movie of like you fully never knew what was going on. Like you thought you had an idea, but every time you're like,
really
wait a second, like they explain and lay everything out to you, but then you're like, there's something wrong here. There's something not right here, you know? And I guess I'll let you finish on your overall. Also, you liked it.
I thought it was amazing. Like, really just had me hooked the whole time, and it really, like, it wasn't a movie where you can just kind of, like, I mean, you can just kind of sit back and enjoy it, but it's not, like, that's not the goal of it.
I don't know if you could, I think you could after you've seen it a few times, but I think, like, I don't know, because I'm with you, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was always trying to peek out, like, oh, what's going on here, and, I don't know if you could, I could honestly see this movie, a lot of people not liking this movie, that I think you got to go in with the right expectations, and I think, and I haven't seen the trailer, so actually I want to go back and watch the trailers and see what they showed and didn't show, because the only thing I did see was that part, it's in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, but Amy Adams puts her hands against the glass and the thing, I saw that, and I think that was a poster too, so that was the only shot I kind of like, okay, but other than that, I didn't know, so I'd like to go back and see, because I think if you go in thinking it could be like an action movie or like an alien, like high intensity, it is high intensity, but in like kind of a thinking way, you know? Yeah. So that I think majority of people like it. I think it is like that District 9 Inception sort of thing. And I would piggyback. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was quite amazing too. I thought the acting was superb. I think the biggest thing about it too was just the actual shots and the scenery, the way they portrayed the ship and the way they did certain scenes, which we'll get into later, was really cool. Like, it's not a big spoiler, but a reveal of one ship was really cool, and it really built up. The score was good. Like, everything really complemented each other in this movie, and I quite enjoyed it. Who knows, it's the end of the year, there's still lots of stuff to come out, there's still Star Wars coming out, but it might be my favorite movie of the year. Like, I can't...
So far?
Yeah, so far, because, like, I love, like, and I'm talking non-comic books wise, because that's my bias, so I take that out. Like, just movie, I think that's it. Before it was The Nice Guys, and I really like that, but I love movies that have a kind of a thinking man's edge to it. Like, you're not, like, I like a movie like that where I'm engaged the whole time. You know, I love movies where you can sit back with popcorn and have fun. That's a good time.
Yeah,
but when you're engaged and you're constantly, your wheels and your head are spinning, I like that.
Yeah.
So, should we get into spoilers and whatnot?
Sure.
So
let's go for it.
If you haven't seen it, come back and listen. If not, we're going to get into it. But yeah, I think just going off that now, I think the overall story was good. Obviously, like I said, the first 20 minutes is like just a regular movie, but I had a feeling that the death of her daughter was going to play into it somehow because it was stressed about. But then for a while when they didn't talk about it, I guess we can probably talk about that first because that's like the biggest kind of elephant in the room was they revealed that those were all flash forwards. And they edited it in a way, like, once again, if you're listening to this or watching, you should have seen it, but they edited it in a way where that happens first, or you're thinking, okay, she's suffered a loss, and now she's just kind of living. Because even when she goes to teach that class, she's pretty sad and down the whole time.
Yeah,
like, she doesn't come off as a person that loves her job or loves her life, so they did a good job doing that way, so kind of tricking us into thinking
she's
that.
very sullen.
Mm-hmm.
How I describe it.
Yeah, and then I said in the car we were talking about this before. I said for me there was a moment where she's having another a flashback, but a flash forward. This time talking about her dad and that being your dad as being a scientist, and that's when it clicked in for me and for the viewers. When did it click in for you that something was strange with the flashbacks? Because they happened at weird times, you know.
Definitely.
And at first I thought the aliens were flashing back to try to show her something or like just that was their way of expressing through memories. And then I was worried for a while that these were going to be angels for a while. Like I was really worried for like 20 minutes because that one time, like the very first time they make connection when she like touches the glass and touches her hand and she gets the flashback, I was really worried that what
was after that they got the first flashbacks? Or
well, she has those flashbacks and she kind of has those dreams, but it's that one where she's writing and then they tell her to put her hands on it, like they're hitting. It's when the bomb was about to go off, and then she touches her hand, and I was worried for a while that they were going to be angels. And nothing against religion, I just didn't want the movie to take that route. I was like, I like the alien thing. I like because it was they didn't really give you any hint of why this pod was here or what their motives were. But when for you did it click in, or what did you think about the flashbacks throughout the movie, and when were you like, something's kind of strange here?
For me, it was when she had the one flashback, and then she passed out, I guess, and she wakes up, and Ian's sitting right beside her, and he says, "Are you like familiar with the theory? I forget what it's called, but where if you immerse yourself in a language enough, it kind of rewires." And at that point, I didn't realize that it was going flash forwards yet, but I was like, I thought that initially she was just like the stress of the situation was causing her to have these flashbacks.
Yeah, to like a painful time or whatnot,
definitely. And then I realized, and then that's when I first thought like, holy shit, she's like, because of how much she's interacting with this language, like it's starting to affect how she's like her past is becoming like real and like the way she's perceiving time. It kind of clicked where it's like, okay, this is more than just flashbacks. And then, but I didn't realize it was to the future, like, until much later. I don't remember exactly when, but...
Yeah, like, I had an idea of, like I said, the example I gave, I just didn't know how they're going to work it, and then obviously as the film went along, I was kind of like, and as they reveal more, they're kind of, okay, this makes sense, and then they talk about, like, the biggest thing is the time, and I think that's a good thing. They build up to everything, you don't lose everything, or you don't get to everything quick. And what I was referring to in the non-spoiler section was my favorite part was the actual... It was slower, but it was good the first time they go into the ship.
Yeah.
And they go, like, they use that tractor or whatever it is, the elevate them up, and then they get the, like, the gravity's gone. But I liked that all was just, like, this white hole, and it was the score, too, was, like, quiet, but kind of loud at the same time. And
definitely.
I liked that. It wasn't just the classic, hey, there's aliens there, and they kind of just... Oh, that's aliens. Like, they don't show her pass out, but they make it seem like her and Ian didn't really get through the first time that well. Because she asked, are you going to fire me? So I liked that. It wasn't just like, these are aliens, let's start talking to them. Like, she did a little bit, but it was stressed that it's a stressful situation, you know? And even later on, when she made progress with the aliens, like her hands were still shaking and she was still semi-nervous. She got better as she went along, but I liked that it was they never fully felt comfortable in the situation, which that can happen in movies like that, where it's just kind of like, I feel like sometimes they accept it's aliens too quick, or accept it's like this otherworldly being. So I liked that. And then the actual, don't know what I want to go to next. I'm trying to think of, I guess, the big reveal as far as some of the time thing happens when the pod, she goes to that ship, and that pod literally just takes her.
Yeah.
And then she goes, and they show her stuff. I like that scene in general, just because it seemed like she was in water. But that's when she gets all, like, the flash forwards, but it's not only of her kid, it's, like, of the Senate and the UN and everything like that. So we get the big moment, which I definitely want to discuss here. So she realizes that they tell each other, the aliens tell her that she's a weapon, right? They say he's a weapon, Louise is a weapon, it's time. And I guess we can talk about this first, and they said you'll need it for like 3,000 years later, or something like that. Do you think that was just like just to be like, oh, something's gonna happen, we'll never know, or was it something that we were supposed to pick up on? Like, no, because they specifically say 3,000 years later. Or is that just something that we just don't get to find out? I think
that's just something that I don't think that we get to find that out.
Sequel? No.
3,000 years later.
Yeah.
No, I think that's just kind of like, I don't know if it, just like something to keep the plot moving, per se.
Yeah. Well, because so do you think them giving them their language is it the language that's a weapon, or is it the time that's a weapon? Because they say she's a weapon, but then at the UN they have all those posters, or like, I guess posters and flags of their language after. So that was the part where I didn't like, and I think they are trying purposely to leave it a little ambiguous, but I didn't understand fully what they were there for, and I guess maybe that's just, that's just probably, there'll be theories about that, but did you have any ideas?
I think I got a decent grasp of it. I may be completely wrong, but I think basically in the end she was right in how they were misinterpreting the way that the heptapod said weapon.
Yeah.
And I think that they did end up meaning it as kind of like a tool, and how they granted humanity, specifically to Louise, this tool, and it's going to obviously help them avert the crisis, and we just don't get to know what that is. Yeah, exactly. It'll help them in some way, being able to perceive time differently, and I imagine as they get more accustomed to it, because obviously, like, the way we are now, like, our brains can't perceive time that way. Yeah. And so I feel like the way that it's intended to help humanity, I guess, advance. Because they show it after her teaching in classes, and she writes the book about it. Exactly. Yeah. So she's kind of like helping humanity progress in that way, and then their expectation is, because they're obviously immersed in that language, like, fully, the heptapod, so they know that 3,000 years down the line, humanity is obviously going to be advanced in some way that helps them. So now this is the thing I guess I can ask too, because it comes in two forms. Is so they all say the heptapods have seen a crisis that happens 3,000 years later, right? Now, do they see it as that, like, the world, Earth ends, and they're going to teach the humans this to save them, or is it the world is saved because we teach the humans? Because there's another moment like that later on with the Chinese, was he the senator, or what was he? Chief of the military. Yeah, and there is a moment of that, which, once again, spoilers, I don't know why you're listening, I haven't seen it, but there is that moment of, she sees a flash forward of him telling her what his dead wife said, her dying words, so that in the future, and then in the present, she could get the phone and his direct number, get the phone him, and tell him those words, and then he believed her. But that's my thing, and this is one of these, like, classic Terminator things like that. Yeah. So does this mean, like, how does that happen? Does this mean that at some point in the future, is this just we accepted that at the time, somehow it worked out that she sees the flash forward? Because obviously after she talks to him, at one point she'll contact him again and say, hey, when you see me in person, you need to tell me your wife's name and number, because this will help us live in the end. So it's this thing of, like, at one point did they fail? Like, did she not get to that? Or is it always just, like, time is this thing? Like, it's the classic, like, time travel, like, egg for the chicken thing. Yeah. And it's the same thing with the pods, is have they seen the world is going to be destroyed and they're going to try to help them? Or have they seen that it's fine, but only with them help them? Like, what do you think on that, and the senator, the Chinese chief, the army chief? Because that one, that always makes me wonder, of, like, so is there a timeline where they failed and they did do this, or is it just this recurring thing? I don't know. This movie, that's what I was all thinking about after I left. It's definitely a lot to wrap your head around. I thought that for the heptapods,
Mm-hmm.
they're able to I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but perceive different timelines, I guess, because they're accustomed to it enough that they can see possible futures in a way, and they're able to manipulate the past in a way that will change that future. Because they were saying that it wasn't I don't think they were saying the humans were in a crisis 3,000 years from now, but the heptapods. They said that they were in the crisis and they need Earth's help 3,000 years.
Oh,
so they're kind of there's like, we do this for you now. In 3,000 years, we'll need your help, so you help us.
Okay.
So
then once again, is there a heptapod from the future that has gone back into
past? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think because
I cannot wait for a week when you get like all the different charts of what could be happening with this movie.
My theory is that the heptapods are advanced enough that they obviously fully perceive time as just like this open canvas instead of a line, and they know this thing's gonna happen. They know this thing's gonna happen, and they're able to do things on this other spot of the canvas that'll affect how this happens.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're able to change it, but as far as the humans and us are able to perceive time at the level they're at, everything's already happened. Mm-hmm. So it's like where
everything's already happened, but then it's the same thing as if she doesn't phone. Like, after she phones him, if she doesn't tell him again to tell him in person to tell him that, then that doesn't happen, right? So it's like, she does say that that's the last line of hers in the movie, if you knew your future, would you change it? So that's the thing, is people that can see the future, they're just kind of supposed to play along with it. Yeah, because what happens if she doesn't marry Ian, you know?
But it's already happened, I think.
But what happened, that's what I mean, but what happens if she chooses not to hug him at the end of that movie?
Exactly.
Because then, I guess... I don't know. Is the world not saved then anymore? Is Earth? Because I guess Earth is actually not in danger at any point in this movie, though. Once we revealed, obviously, for 2 hours, you think it is.
Yeah, the only danger is the danger they make themselves.
Oh yeah, exactly. When those soldiers try to blow it up, which I kind of liked, because you got the classic. They're watching kind of the equivalent to a Fox News and this and that. People that are just saying they want war, and they're questioning the government, so that was good too, and that was an intense scene too, adding the bomb in there. I guess the other thing is I guess we'll come back to that chief thing, but they do kill one of the aliens. Yeah. And I guess is the Hypnopod just kind of takes it as they have to look for the greater good, because that's where I thought things could turn, is after, because when she says they're dead, I thought things were going to turn around and they were just going to start messing Earth up. Yeah. But they didn't, so they just kind of accepted that Costello died. So
I think in the end it shows that they're there to help humanity, and because you see how the one heptapod lived, and because he flew away or swam away, I guess, and I think the only reason the Costello died, or it was Abbott that died.
Abbott died. Yeah.
Sorry. I think the only reason Abbott died is because he stayed there to save Ian and Louise.
Yeah, and because if he doesn't, he's probably seeing the future, because if he doesn't save them...
Yeah, exactly. So I think...
so much time.
Yeah, it's fucking whack. But so I don't think it was... They were they knew something was happening. They were prepared to take... to.
Do you think Abbott knew he was going to die in that moment? I think he probably did. I think he did.
I think so.
Yeah. And I guess that brings me back to the...
Well, the thing is, though, did he know? Because you could see he was trying to, when he was knocking on the glass, I imagine he was trying to get her to turn around and see that there was a bomb there.
Well, that's what I thought, too. But, I guess so. And then they show all that stuff right away. Yeah. So maybe he was hoping that... Maybe that was him trying to change the timeline of him trying to survive. I don't know. Because then back to the timeline thing, what is your take on the Chinese chief thing? Because that's the thing that's still I haven't really figured out fully in my head about how, because is there an inception point, or is it just a circle of how that happens, with the chief thing?
I think it's just a circle in a way. I don't think there's I don't think she has to tell him afterwards to tell her that. Because
so then somehow he just walks up to her at the UN meeting and tells her. That's the part where
because I think he understood that because at that point in time, 18 months in the future, they say, the world kind of like realizes what's happening and how the language works and how she's being affected by it, and they realize that they know that she's able to perceive time because he says, I don't fully understand how your mind works.
Yeah, and then there's the first time when he sees her, so he would think too, oh, this would probably come in handy, because he is a smart guy. Well, they portray it after, because for the first hour and a half, they just portray him as like a guy who just wants to bomb these things. Exactly. So like, I got that, but I was kind of like, at the end, I was kind of real glad that it did change the tune a bit, because it was just like, bomb, no matter what they said, like, we're bombing them, they're a weapon, they're a bomb, so I did like, no, that makes sense, I understand. I think I got a grasp on it now. That's a good analogy. I'm sure there's probably other theories out there. But I think you're probably right with, they know that's how it works, and he knows that's going to come and play. Because how else would she know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So he tells her, and then they tap into... So, do you think when she explains that language... I guess, we can get into this. So when she explains the language, do you think all the humans can tap into this now eventually? Or do you think it's talking to the hypnopods? Because the reason I bring this up, while you think on that, is... Obviously, her and Ian divorced and split up because she at one point tells him that their daughter's going to die from cancer. Yeah. So don't you think him knowing the language could somehow look into it? Or do you think it's just like she only had that and she's just explaining the language so they could... She could just be explaining the language so they could talk with the hypnopods, right? Because no one else was up close. No one actually touched the aliens other than her, right? So it could just be that.
I think it's just her... It's partially because of her understanding of language and as like an expert, and I feel like it's just because she immersed herself in it so much more than anyone else, because she was really the only one actually communicating with them and actually using the language. And
Ian was more than just for a model, like, Ian walks.
Yeah, exactly. And he was there, like, he obviously helped with the language, but he if he were to go in there, he couldn't put the pieces together and form a sentence to speak with them, I feel like. So I think because she was actually the only one who was actually using the language and speaking it with them. So yes, I do think that you have to actually be speaking it with them. Because I don't think if two humans just understood the language and were speaking it to each other, they would really grasp it.
That's fair. No, that makes sense then, because that was one thing I was wondering if anyone else could kind of tap into, but that even makes sense of even back to the chief, like he says, like, that's where your mind works, so it might just be perceived that she's the only one that like everyone's learning it, but she has the best grasp on it, because she's obviously the one that kind of saved everybody, right? Because she talks to them and talks to the other things. And I guess the other thing too is, I guess this is a point of contention. This is just a story thing. So. She asked that question to Ian at the end about, if you knew your whole life, would you live? And he just says, like, I would just, like, be a bit nicer, blah, blah. Which you kind of see. You can see every moment with her daughter, she's, like, cherishing, she's trying to, right? And, like, live in the moment because she knows she only gets, like, maybe, like, 16 years, 15 years. So that was good. But, so I guess we take it as, she says that. At one point, she does tell Ian, I guess, that their daughter dies away. And it's not a negative thing about the movie, but are you surprised? Because, like, I guess I'm trying to wonder how that came up in conversation, or do you think he asked... I guess maybe she talked about, maybe in her book or whatnot, that she's seen the future, so I wonder if he asked... And even if he asked... This is the thing, though. Back to the time thing. If he asked, like, what did you see? And she tells him, and he divorced... And she pretty much says that he left because he didn't agree with what she said, right? But she can clearly see the future. Obviously, it's probably just more of a, like, he's mad and he's in denial. But, like, to leave her, and I guess this is probably a mark on Ian, to leave her is kind of an awful thing, because she's seen the future before. He should know that, but he's just kind of like, the way we take it, because we never see a scene with them after. I have to watch a second time. I don't know... Did you like where it ended, or would you like to see the scene after the daughter passed in the present? Because I was kind of waiting for that, but it ends with them happy but sad at the same time, because we know the result, right?
It's
a loaded question.
I think Yeah, I think I'm happy with it. Because I think in the end, they kind of got across the message of just, like, enjoy, like, every moment that you have.
Yeah.
And because you see how...
And we don't share the shitty ones with Ian after.
Exactly. Because it shows how, at the start, like, obviously, it shows, like, how she's growing up with her daughter, and then it like, goes to the flash of, like, her being really close to her daughter, and then, like, that flash of her daughter being like, oh, I hate you.
Teen angst and everything.
And, and then it shows the flash of her, like, in the hospital, and then she has cancer, and then she dies, and it's really sad.
Oh, yeah.
And then as she goes through this, because she obviously hasn't had this flashback yet. Like,
no.
We're the only ones who've seen it, but as she goes through this whole experience with the alien, she kind of comes to realize that despite this happening, just enjoy every moment of it.
Yeah.
And it's...
And he kind of says that too, which that's why I guess I'm kind of not... I guess it kind of makes sense, but I was a little thrown off guard. I thought he was maybe gonna die, but then when it was revealed that he left her, that's why it's like a little like, oh, it's kind of strange.
I think what happened is she knew this was going to happen, but she agreed to have the kid with him anyways, and then told him after they had the kid, and he was probably mad about the fact that he didn't tell her before. Yeah, and then he didn't want to deal with it. Yeah, and then he left because he was obviously pissed at it. Yeah. Because she also said, let's have a kid, without knowing this would probably... I imagine she knew this was going to happen and didn't tell him.
Yeah, because he asked her, and she does kind of feel... There is a moment where she kind of pauses and thinks about it. So yeah, that's why I definitely want to see it a second time, because I think it works in both ways. It's good that it leaves it kind of ambiguous, because it is like this we have to talk about, like, why did he maybe left and what was his motives. But at the same time, I always like wonder why and kind of like would like to know, but it works. And like you said, I think the message at the end is more just like enjoy your life, enjoy the moments, which is good. Like I honestly was almost I was close to tearing up at the end there, because it was like really well done, and the score and everything like that. I'm trying to think, is there any big plot points that you want to talk about before we talk about like some just cast and overalls and whatnot? But I'm trying to think, because like I think the biggest thing was the time thing. I think I talked about that already. I liked how they built up to everything. I like the use of the language. Like, the story is great in this. Yeah. It's phenomenal. Like, it does keep you on the edge of your seat and thinking the whole time. But is there any big plot points that stand out?
I don't know if there's anything individually like a lot. I really liked how they visually showed the gravity shift as they go up the shaft. I thought that was like incredibly well done. How he just throws it up and then just like it seamlessly goes to it just like landing on the floor. Yeah. And I really like how the first time they're in it, it showed like every shot was from like, it showed them on a different sort of panel of the floor, I guess, because it showed them like, it showed like the shot from above, and it showed them like the ground beneath them, and they're walking like straight up the wall, and then it shows them upside down.
Yeah. The upside down thing was really cool, because and then it goes to their perspective, or it just like that's the roof, right? But they're actually upside down. Yeah, like that's like, it's not a story thing, but that's one of the biggest things. The cinematography in this is great, and it makes me look forward to because this guy who shot the movie is the guy who's doing he's doing Han Solo, not the director, but the guy who did like the cinematography and whatnot. So he's doing the Han Solo movie. So that makes me even more excited for that, because the movie's beautiful, the way it's shot, and like that, and just the pause itself. And just in general, I think the dream scenes were done really well. I'm trying to think. I'm forgetting. There was one other scene that I really liked shot-wise, but I couldn't remember. But I'm trying to think. I think we covered most of the main big like discussion points. I'm sure some could come up, but I guess we talk about cast. Yeah.
Just before that, I had a couple more points on the plot there. And just like the story of it was just like it didn't like. I'm trying to figure out when like kind of the climax was. For me, because I felt like the whole time Louis was just like building and building and building and building. It's just like slow, like the tension was rising the whole time, and it never really. I'm trying to think of where it actually like climaxed.
I think for me it was after she got released from that pod, because after she gets released from that pod, she makes. Well, actually, it's either that or the phone call to the Chinese chief or whatever, the army guy. Because I think it's one of those two for me. Because after that, there's still moments where I'm engaged, but it's not intense because the aliens leave, and it's not intensity. It's more like figuring everything out, because you see her figuring everything out too. That okay, I'm gonna marry this guy. We're gonna have kids together. She's gonna pass away, and she sees like the you and me. And so I think for me, the climax was the phone call probably, because after that is a lot.
Yeah, after that you kind of have everything figured out, I guess.
Yeah, you're starting to piece it
point.
together. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that was it. But yeah, it is, even then it's intense, and I think that's, like I said, even the ending too. It's very soft music and beautiful music, but they do it in the right way is the score too. The score in this is like phenomenal. It complements the movie really well. It makes it like, it just flows with it really well. You know, like every time, I think that's one thing that can really hurt a movie is when you see a shot or a scene and there's music playing that doesn't, or a score playing that doesn't fit. It can take me out of it. Or it can ruin it. And that's the thing with this. Every time when I saw a shot, like I said, that shot with them going in the first time, the music there was perfect. Like the music actually gave me goosebumps. And then the music at the end when she's seeing all her whole life play out, they use this kind of soft, like kind of heartbreaking music. And I guess like for me, the score is one of the biggest like pluses in this movie. Like I'm sitting here thinking, and like it's not spoiling my score, but like, I've been trying to think of something I didn't like in the movie, and I haven't actually thought about yet. Like I really want to see it again. I'm sure maybe over time, but I like that, and I do want to watch it again, knowing now this beginning's the Flash, like in the future, right? Because they purposely do that to make you think that her daughter is actually dead. Because for the first half of the movie, you're just thinking about like, oh, is she gonna bring that up? Is that because she has? The only way she sees it after they go there a couple times is through dreams. So you think, oh, she's just kind of going through bad stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then
was there anything else plot-wise?
I just really liked how they played out the whole, like, the rest of the world, and like how it like very realistic, I guess, in a way.
Riots and looting.
Yeah, exactly. Like the way they,
which is a shame.
Did it? Yeah.
World. But yeah, they have like the classic like guy with a Guy Fawkes mask, like spray painting stuff. It was good, and then I did like that. It seemed like for the first half of the movie, all the countries were working together, and then there's that scene of them like disconnecting, because there is that thing. You would hope that would happen in real life, but you could see that happening with egos and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's just really the way they created the world around it was really good.
Any other plot points?
Don't think so.
Yeah, I'm sure something may come up. But yeah, as far as cast, I thought Amy Adams did a great job. Like she carried. Everyone else is really good in this movie, but she carries the movie. Like the movie's on her shoulders to make it believable. Because I guarantee you, her in that room is not looking at anything. But like she does a great job of, like I was even talking about earlier, like her being nervous, her kind of being in shock, and then shock and awe too. Like when they kind of talk back and everything like that. And I think too, it sounds weird, but I think one of the easiest roles to get wrong is someone that's a scientist, because like you can see someone, or someone that's, I guess she wasn't a full-on scientist, but she was a doctor in like words and whatnot. I can't language something. I can't remember the official term, but sometimes when people play smart, it just kind of comes off like, oh, they're reading. I thought Jeremy Renner did a good job too as Ian, but I thought she did an incredible job. I think like the past 3 years I've always felt like this, but this movie for me really enforces that. I think she's one of like the best actresses around right now. Like she's kind of a chameleon that can do anything, and in this movie, like any scene, like, and the scenes with her and the daughter were really believable too, because she has kids in real life, so she could probably play on that. But that's another thing too, because if you don't really buy those scenes or feel connection, like the stuff at the end isn't really going to hit you. Like of course, like a kid dying is always sad, but if you don't feel a bond there, if you don't feel like they're mother and daughter, then it's kind of a mute point.
Yeah, exactly. So, then like that whole, every time it shows that throughout the film, it's just kind of,
you go, whatever, like I get it, your kid died, like not to be mean, but in the movie, like I get it, like move along. But I thought she did a good job in every front. Like I thought she was phenomenal. It's like one of the better performances I've seen this year, and it's one that, like I said, it has to rely on her a lot, and she does a great job. So that's what I thought about her.
Yeah, was it Jeremy Renner?
Jeremy Renner was Ian. Yeah.
I think he did like a phenomenal job too. I think they both did really well, but obviously Amy had a much bigger role.
Oh yeah, much more.
So she shined a lot more, but I think they both did a really good job. And I think another one that I enjoyed was, he had very little, but like the captain,
Forrest Whitaker. Yeah, he was good.
Who ended up getting like, he had they bombed the place and the Last Stand and stuff. And I feel like the way. Oh wait.
The good captain or the bad captain?
No, the bad captain.
Okay, the bad captain.
I thought, like, just the way he kind of, like, played that soldier who was kind of just, like, very doubtful and, like...
Yeah, and didn't really feel like they were doing it the right way. Like, he had a lot of conviction in the way he thought, but you could tell that obviously you knew something bad was gonna happen
Yeah.
because of that kind of look, but they did a
And
good
it's
way of like he looked like he had conviction, but it was very like subtle and undertone. So
yeah, exactly, and just like it was obviously very small parts, but like one scene that stood out was when he was on the phone call with I imagine it was his wife,
yeah,
and just like something seemed wrong, and you could see like obviously I guess the stress and just the enormity of the situation taking its toll on him, and
well, because his wife's asking him like, oh, the kids are worried about the monsters. They're asking, they say they're gonna kill you and whatnot. So
and just like it is a very small part, I guess, and it like you could say it's a very simple part to play where he just seemed unattached to the situation, but it just like that scene just like was like.
Well, I think I'll shout out to the guy that played the main captain, Forrest Whitaker, like the good one that like gets Amy Adams and whatnot. I think this movie, other than like the writing and whatnot, and you talk about some of the twists and the kind of the ending. I think this is a movie, if done poorly, this is like a B movie you see on like the Sci-Fi Channel, and that's the same thing with all the roles that we talked about. That like. You could screw up this role and one person can stand out. That happens a lot of great movies too, where like, oh, everyone's great, but there's this one guy who kind of stands out. There's one girl that like, it doesn't feel right, but they all felt right and felt in their place. And that's the same thing as Forrest Whitaker. I really liked him in there. He was a hard ass when he needed to be, but then there's times where he like kind of loosened up a bit, or like not loosened up as far as cracking jokes, but would just listen. It wasn't just always, because I was really worried. The first time we meet him was the scene with Amy Adams, and he's not trying to intimidate her, but it kind of comes off that way.
Being that hard ass.
Yeah, and then the second time when we see him, she's one of my favorite things. I was like, oh, I don't know about this. She's like, oh, I just need 20 minutes. And he's like, we're leaving in 10, and it's like, you're not leaving in 10. Like you need her. You're not just if the clock hit 10 minutes, he's not going to be like, well, she's not here, so let's go. She never stuff. So I was really worried the whole movie he was just going to be the hard ass guy, and even the guy who was like the I don't know what his official title was, but he was the guy, he had the career. And he was the guy who was like talking to the president or vice president or whoever, Secretary of State, stuff like that. Like they were feeding him like, okay, China's gonna do this. You need to get you need these answers.
Yeah.
Even him at some point still seemed like he was working with them. Be like, okay, you try this. Like we need this answer today. So I like that those two characters for me. I was worried when we were first introduced that they're just gonna be hard ass all the time. And I get that, but then when it's the end of the world, I wouldn't buy it because there's gonna be those people, but you'd think eventually you'd be like, okay, like we need to work together here, you know?
They're very human.
Yeah, it's kind of like I hate to use an example, but it's like after 9/11 happened, there was no like Republicans or Democrats. Like everybody was one, and that was the thing of like I didn't want in this movie people to be. I like the soldiers because they thought they were doing what was right, but they spoke up a few times, but it was never a full on kind of hitting you over the head that are like, I'm right, you're wrong. It kind of goes that way at the end because the intensity's wrapping up, but that's why it worked, because at the end, everyone's like, no, we gotta do this. And we, like, Amy Adams and Ian and Jeremy Renner, like, we gotta do this. And Forrest Whitaker's like, we should do this. And the CIA guys like, we should do this. And it works in the ending, but if you have that happening the whole movie, it wouldn't have worked at the end because it loses importance. If like the whole movie they're at odds, it's like, well, why do I care now? If they're like, we gotta bomb these aliens, right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was there anybody else cast you want to shout out? It was actually small. Like it's a really it's a big cast because there's lots of like extras and soldiers. But as far as like your main characters, there's really only about 4.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, I don't think so.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We talked about the story was great. Talked about the score was great. There's a little humor in there. I think it all worked. Like Jeremy Renner was kind of like the humor in there, and I didn't think
a little bit of comic relief there.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think it was too much or not enough. I thought it was just right. Like I said, like when you were referring to that moment when he throws like the glow stick and he's like, and it sticks, and he's like, well, that happened. You know? I thought that was good because it was kind of like, and then I think too, that's what I think in this movie that they all felt natural. It didn't feel like lines that you wouldn't say to each other. And I can't remember. There was just a movie I literally watched 2 days ago where I'm watching and just like they wouldn't, like you wouldn't say it like that. You wouldn't talk like that, you know. And that's the thing, like it did feel very realistic, like alien invasion movie. I like the way that they find out, even with the like she's going into her job and all the kids are watching a television, and then all the kids start getting a bunch of texts in their class and everything like that. That was really good. Which I did feel like, as a comedic note, I did feel like all those kids were idiots. Like they've gone to school their whole lives, and it's like this one day, like all their messages are on. Like you would thought you had your phone on silent.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to think. Like I said, like the score is good. The story, the score. Trying to think. Directing was great. Like, and the guy who's this, his name is Denis Villeneuve. I think I'm saying it wrong. All right, don't shoot me. But he is. I'm not sure. Did you see Sicario last year?
I don't.
You should watch that. It's a completely different movie. It's about the drug trade, actually. But he's really good there. He's doing. Have you ever seen Blade Runner?
Yeah.
He's doing.
I haven't. Actually.
Okay, that's another.
What
he didn't do that, but he's doing the sequel for it next year. So he's a really up and comer, and he's kind of building an impressive kind of
resume.
Yeah, resume, and I'm very excited to see just what he does next, because this is one of these films that does remind me of. Like I said, it does remind me a lot of Inception. When you saw it, you're like, oh, this guy's gonna be special. And Nolan is now this like big director, and I feel like Villeneuve is going to become this big name in the next few years. Just look at this film. Like, I think it's a film that is very unique. Like, it on the surface, it looks like it's going to be very similar to a bunch of other alien movies, but it's not. I really like that. I really like the movie as a whole. Mm-hmm. Is there anything, I guess, you want to say before we did, like, overall ratings or anything?
Just another shout out to the cinematography. Like, the shots were, like, phenomenal. When they were first getting to the U.S. camp, and it just showed, like, the fields and, like, the hill and the clouds rolling over, and then the spaceship was just sitting there. Like, that was just, like, phenomenal.
Yeah, the shots of the spaceship were great. And I did like it was just like, and they really set the tone to, like, at one point when they were there in the helicopter, they go over like this highway where it's all backed up and there's just like thousands of people around their cars and whatnot, and like I did like that. I think that was my favorite thing about this. It set the scene. Like I already said, I hate to repeat, but it did feel like a real world alien invasion. And movies sometimes, and I get it, if it's an action movie, you don't need to do that. You're just gonna be like, oh, we'll kill the aliens. But they showed the world in peril, and they showed the world later on what happens with riots and looting and stuff like that. So I really like that. So I guess, what did you think? Well, I guess, what is your ending comment on it, and what would you give a rating on? I have no idea what I'm actually giving a rating on.
For me, I think like Kubo up until this point was like movie of the year for me, and now it's like it's hard to compare the two in a way because they're both very different. I haven't seen it, but I
want to so badly.
You haven't seen Kubo? Oh, so good. But it's like it's hard to compare the two. I think after watching them both, if I waited a month and wanted to see one of them again, I'd probably watch this one again.
Yeah.
So I think I'd have to say this one is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any number you'd throw on there?
God. I'm trying to.
Well, you think I'll give my overall? Because I don't actually have a number rating either. But like I said, I can't stress enough that I think the story is great, cinematography great, the writing's great, the acting's superb, everything. It feels like a very special movie. It feels like a movie that people are going to be talking about for the next few years. Of like, comparing, like talking about alien movies. Like, I feel like it kind of puts a standard of a movie that like it's not like a full-on like a superhero blockbuster, but it's a film on a grand stage, but has like a great message and a smaller message in it. And like I've never done this unless it's comic book movies. I don't know if I want to throw a 10 on there, because like when I hate throwing 10s on stuff, because it's just like that means it's perfect. But like I'm trying to think about stuff that I would change, because and I don't really have it. And for me, like a 10 for me, even going that far, is like I usually rate movies not so much like, sometimes I do on like the way they're made, but just on like enjoyment. And like, I don't know, like I think maybe it'll be a movie that I'll have to watch again for like my full on final score. But as of right now, walking in the theater seeing it, I'm actually gonna give it a 10, because I can't think of anything I'd want to change. Even like there's parts of the middle that were slow I didn't find slow, because they did a good job of engaging you. Like that's where for me there's times where stuff like the humor or a movie slowing down and just being really boring can really derail, and you're like, and that's for me where I did kind of enjoy this, not as much as Inception, but that was the last time I got this feeling of this kind of very trippy feeling in a way where my mind's working. You know, Inception I just liked a bit more just because like I like the dream thing, and it's a bit more like there's a bit more action in there, but I loved Inception, and that's what this for me kind of felt like. It felt like that kind of mind trippy, making you think semi-blockbuster. So I think as of right now, I'm going 10, but I could maybe drop to 9.5. I won't say a solid 10, because this is a movie. It's kind of like when we saw Doctor Strange. We're like, oh yeah, that's a 7. I don't think it's going to change. Like, I know what I like, I know what I didn't. But this one, because there's so much to take in. But like, I guess, you know what I'll do? I'll say I'd give it a 10 right now for enjoyment and excitement. I don't know the overall film. I think the overall film's like a 9-something. I just need to literally see it again to be like, this would be like a score. But 10 for my enjoyment, because I loved it, and not only loved it from excitement, I loved it like on a personal. Like I said, I almost cried at the end. Like the ending's beautiful, and it does have a great message, and it's really well done because that ending. Most of the scenes we've already seen, except not with Ian. We've seen them already, so they could have been redundant. I'm just like, okay, once again, we get it, but they all really hit home for me, and they had like it's a movie that like kind of impacted me emotionally, and yeah, I love this movie. Like, and my favorite movie I said before was The Nice Guys, and I think I just like this a bit more because I like more dramatic stuff. I like more darker stuff. It's the same way why I always like The Dark Knight compared to other superhero films, just because I like a dark edge. I like a kind of a gritty. Not somber, but in a way that it just simply like just makes you think more than the other films. You know, I love popcorn films, but this on a different level, it engages you, and that's what I really like. And for me, this film engaged me. I haven't been this engaged since like I saw like probably Mad Max, and like I said, I always take comic book movies out because I'm engaged because like I've been reading that shit so I'm seeing Captain America, of course I'm engaged. But like last time I saw Mad Max was the first time I was sitting in my chair just be like, oh man, this is perfect and this is perfect. You know, like I couldn't find a thing. So really love Arrival. See it. Did you have any idea what to give it as far as a number?
I think a 9.2.
Yeah, 9.2. Do you have any reason not a 10?
I think there are a couple things they could have done a little. Like one thing was with Ian. He was obviously like he's a theoretical physicist, and they didn't really play that part of him a lot.
Yeah, that's
like there are a couple things where like
he did seem not pointless, but he seemed like he was in the background a lot.
Yeah, like it didn't see like obviously that's his reason for being there, but they didn't play up on that anymore. I guess
he does figure out the time thing though. Remember, because he's like, oh, they need one. It's one piece is a 12, so he does fit. He does play a role, but I'll agree with you there that he does. He does feel a little underutilized. It didn't like impact it for me a bit, but I could see where you're coming from. Yeah,
I was expecting a little bit more like of his science end instead of just like purely language. Science the whole way through. And I'm trying to think what else there was. I think I really enjoyed the ending, but I think I would have liked if the ending, if there was like a little bit more. If like the audience knew more about the ending, because it was like I guess
the ending as far as the world, or the ending as far as Louisa, like Amy Adams' character? The world. Okay, so like
a bit more, not necessarily 3,000 years later, but a little bit more into the 18 months later and like the whole resolution of everything.
Because the whole world seems happy, and it seems like they're at peace because they're at this you and me and everyone's drinking and having a fun time, and they're all smiling. So like, I could agree with you there. Yeah,
and I think like because they obviously show like the little clips of her teaching the language in university
class, and we get that book,
and you see them at like the UN conference and everyone like happy and like, and it would have been nice to see like. Just a little, I guess, a bit more of Louise's life in that future, rather than just like those little clips and then just like only like.
I wonder if they did that because if they showed too much of that, you would have like not felt as emotional showing that. So it's like maybe for the pacing wise, they didn't want to show too much.
I totally agree with like I think it's a great ending already, but I think if they could have done that well, it would have been great. Yeah, but. I can't think of how they would have done it, so it's like I'm very happy with how they did it already. Yeah. So yeah. So 9.2. I think it could have been a tiny bit better. Yeah. But
and that's why that's why I do want to see it again, which is funny even though I just saw it. It's a movie and that's for me a mark of a good movie when I saw it and I think about it, and I would honestly go see it again right now, like because I would just like because it's a movie that is gonna, and those are some of the best movies. Or it's gonna change on a second viewing because you know certain things now. So that's why I said like I'm giving it 10 for enjoyment, but like as the actual score, I don't know because I do really want to see it again. There's a lot to unpack there, but like I just give it 10 because like I loved it. I love the story. I think Amy Adams killed it. Like she's a phenomenal actress. When I thought about all those scenes again, like when you were describing them, like I think she does such a good job. So yeah, no, overall great movie. I
think this is gonna be one of those films that's like. Cornerstone going into the future. Like this is one. It's a very. I like how it's just such a small, simple idea. Yeah. In a way, and it's just done so perfectly.
Yeah, it's executed very well.
I feel like it's just like one of those films that's going to be around and highly regarded for decades even.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that front too. Like I feel like, and already like I've seen other people like the reception is good for it. People really like it. I haven't talked to anybody else of my friends have seen it because they haven't seen it. So I'll be interested to see once it gets around what people think about it. But I think generally people will love it. Like I do think it is a special film. It is a film to me. Like I said, for me, it just kind of stands out as. Like, I don't want to throw it on there, but, like, that film of the year, because it is just, like, when I think about the year so far and movies that really stand out and, like, left with me, movies most time will be like, okay, like I said, other than comedy movies, I'll leave and I'll be like, that was fun or that was a good watch. Other than, like I said, with Mad Max, I had the same thing. When I go home, I'm thinking about things like that, and that's the same way with this. I was going to ask you, because I've never asked you, do you have a 10 out of 10 movie in your life? I have not counting comic book movies, I think I, like, have, like, maybe I could, like, 5. I think, like, a Pulp Fiction's mine. A Fight Club, and like I think like an Inception, like and some people might not like that, but like there's a couple like I guess for me like I always find a way like I guess I always give movies a 10 if there's like no like an Empire Strikes Back or Lord of the Rings. Like if I have nothing I would change about it, that's what I do. So do you have any there? Because like I feel like I give out too many, but like that's me. I guess I'm easy to if you do good enough.
I mean, it's
easy please.
your own opinion, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like someone can say
I just
can
hate
follow you for you.
Oh, I know. I just hate like not hate it, but when you put 10 on something, that just means it's perfect. And like it's tough because I only say it once, but it's just like the 10. But have you put 10 on anything or anything that you think is like a perfect film for you? I guess
I don't think I have.
Wow.
I don't think I've. I mean, there are films that if I like. Just because there's a lot of films that I haven't haven't even thought about giving it a score. Like true. Yeah. And like for example, as you said, like Empire Strikes Back, that would be a good contender for it.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it recently enough with that kind of
a critical eye
to think about it. Yeah. So there are definitely like that. Maybe like Empire Strikes Back, Fight Club would be one that really stands out to me, and like even this one maybe like I'm giving 9.2 right now, but that's because like exactly.
Now I was gonna say when you see it again, obviously I think the second time will be good because you see it from a different perspective. Do you think because this is a risk that some movies I don't think it will because it's a great movie, but do you think this runs a risk at all of now that you know the outcome, other than the second time when you watch it again to see it, do you think this is a movie you would want to watch over again, or do you think this is like one of those great movies where it's like, oh, it's a great movie, but I can only watch it every once in a while? Because I think it's a great movie, but I think this is it. I think it's like, for me, like I said, like a Pulp Fiction. That for me is like a movie I could probably watch every day just because it's so snappy, it's so quick, and it's so. But this is a movie where I think it will be in those upper echelon movies for me, and of this 2010 to 20 decade. But I think it's a movie that I'm gonna watch it again probably within this year just because I want to see it. But after that, I would take a couple years from it again too, you know, because a lot of that middle part is trying to figure out what the aliens want. And then now that you know, I'm excited to see it again, like knowing that. Do you think how do you feel about upon multiple viewings on this movie? Because that's some movies with twists can hold up or can go down.
Exactly. Like I think, I think I can. I definitely think it's one of those movies where I could see it multiple times a year.
Yeah.
And enjoy it just because there's so many I feel like there's so many things that I missed. Yeah. Just little things where it's just watching the movie. Because when you're watching the movie, you're seeing what they want you to see, obviously. Yeah. And you're kind of zoomed in, I guess. Yeah. And then taking a step back, you can look at the whole screen and see everything that's going on and see the little things that they might have done. Yeah, it's that added to the scene.
It's a dishonest narrator in a way because like we said before, they start the movie off with the dead girl, so right away you're not thinking clearly. You're on your own timeline that the actual movie's going. Yeah, you know? But
I think there's always something to get out of it, through every view, and it's just because I understand how films don't hold up. Obviously more actiony films, I guess, Inception and stuff. They hold up because they're exciting and they keep you on the edge of the seat just purely through what they're showing. Action and stuff. Yeah, it keeps you on the edge of your seat, and it's it's really exciting to relive those moments, even again and again, because I've watched Inception many times. Yeah, and I think this one, the Arrival, does it in a completely different way because there's pretty much no action. There aren't those typical
there's guns shot in this, and it's all off screen. Remember when they take out those those soldiers you don't even see, you just hear the gunfire.
Yeah, but I think just being able to just watching and just seeing all the little things they added to it that you don't pick up on. Yeah, but they add so much to the scene. Yeah. I think it'll be really really nice to see it from that kind of step back.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it again. And I'm really excited to see other people talk. Like, yeah, I want to see this again so much. Like, it is so. It's like I said, it's a movie that sticks out for me this year. Just like impacts me and left with me. I'm just thinking because I'm thinking about all the movies, especially now that we're on the podcast, we review more and we talk endless hours about movies. Now it's one of these things that like it is a movie that. I'm very interested to see other people see it. I'm very interested to see it again. I think you do make good points. And I agree with you. I don't know if I'm the same if I'll be able to watch it multiple times in 1 year, but I think I'll know that once I see it a second time because that's a full different experience knowing everything. So
definitely.
So, yeah. Is there anything you want to add last
time? And just like this is one of the movies in like a long time where it's like I want some other people to see it so I can talk about it with them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I haven't had one of these movies in a very long time. Like I can't think of the last time I watched a movie and I'm like, like you should see this and let's talk about it.
That for me was Inception. Like when I talk about Mad Max last year, that was just like I just loved it for the sake of like the action, how it was done. But like for me, I think for me it was literally the inception of that when it ended in the theater, I was right away just like. That was like really in the early days of me like looking into like IMDb forums and this and that. Just wanted because like no one else had seen it, so I was like, what are people saying about this? Like, what do they think about this? You know, and I don't think I'd really have to think hard. But that was in 2010, so it's been 6 years. So it's not the greatest thing for film to think about that. But like, it's been 6 years, I guess, since a film for me has hit like that. You know, that I do have. Even stuff like we talked about now that you said that made sense to me, like with the chief and everything. Now it makes sense, but still. I want to hear other people's thoughts. I want to hear what they think about it.
Yeah, so. I think Inception was probably the last one where I like actually went and looked up like what other people thought and what they think the ending means and everything. So
yeah. Well, that was good. I hope you all enjoy it. Let us know in the comments whether it's Facebook or YouTube or not. Tell us your theories. Tell us what you thought about. Like if you liked it, if you did like it, let us know. Because if you didn't, I'd like to know because. That brings up great points because sometimes people, if they don't like it, they bring up something like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense. But let us know. Go to GeekVersePodcast.com. You find us on Facebook and Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or so many places for audio. You can go to Twitch or YouTube right now. Not right now. Right now, you're already here. In the future, you can go there. Please rate and subscribe us. Help us out. Throw some pocket change on Patreon. Get exclusive episodes. Until then, next week we got Beasts. We got another film too.
That's exciting.
I'm not excited.
You're not?
No, I'm not.
Really?
Because it's not against Harry Potter. I've always said this. I think Harry Potter is the only franchise that doesn't have a bad movie in their entire franchise. Like a fully bad quality thing.
Yeah.
It's just, I think, a prequel thing. It's even the same thing of, like, I'm so excited for Rogue One, but it's just that thing of, like, I know you guys are going to die. You know, it's the same thing with these Beast things. Like, I know what's going to happen here. So with prequels, I'm always a little, but you never know. New Planet of the Apes, they surprise me. So it's like, I'm excited. I'm excited just for the fact of like seeing it, but I'm not like, oh my god, I can't wait. So, but that's next week. Come back for that. We got Fantastic Beasts, whole crew. I think we'll be back for that one. That'll be exciting. Thank you very much for tuning in. See you next week. Promise you won't be boring.